Hi, this tutorial is called Explode and Recover. First, I'm going to add all the objects I need to do this tutorial. I'm going to add a plane. And the plane, I don't want it to be involved in the explosion. So I'm going to turn off the collider. I don't want it to affect the explosion. Then I'm going to add a cube. This is all still part of step one. And to the cube, I'm going to add a child object, another cube. And the reason I'm adding this child object is just so we could tell when the cube's rotating around where the front is of the cube. So I'm going to put a little nose on it right there. And then to that cube, I'm going to just make a duplicate of it because one of them I'm going to use as a target. So what I want to do is name it target. Click on the word. Keep target. And the other one I want to be the cube that moves during the explosion. Name again. Cube mover. Okay. So I got two cubes, a target and a mover, and I'll just move up the mover one a little bit so we could see the difference. And then the target one. There we go. And another thing I'm going to do so we can tell the target one, I'm going to put material on the target one that's transparent. Come on, let's go. Put that material on. Bam. Transparent blue. Okay. So I got a plane, I got two cubes, a target and a mover. Another thing I want to show on the screen is where the center of the explosion is. So I'm just going to add a sphere to visually represent the center of the explosion. Turn off the collider on that. I don't want it to be involved in the explosion. All right, so I got the sphere, the target, the mover, the plane for reference. What else do I need? In this tutorial, I'm going to kind of display some numbers up here to show the explosion in progress. So I'm going to add a text element. Text element to the screen. Then I just switch to game view to position that text element. So I click this, and I hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to just move it over here to the corner, and then offset it from the corner just a little bit. Just a little bit. Offset the X and the Y. Okay, and that's going to be my text. And just to make sure the text doesn't get cut off, I'm going to turn the overflows on the horizontal and vertical. All right, go back to my scene view. Now let me just check for step one if I added everything I need. A plane for visual reference, and I turn off the collider. A target for visual reference, and turn off the collider. The mover needs the collider, and it needs a rigid body. Let's add that, a rigid body. Physics, rigid body, because the mover is actually gonna react to the explosion force. So for that we need physics, and I want it to slow down after it explodes, so I'm gonna have the drag for translation of position and a drag for translation of angles from the explosion. Okay, so I got all my objects in my scene. That is step one. Step two, I need to add a script to actually do, the explosion. So I have the script already written. I'll give you guys a chance to copy it. Step two, I'm going to click the cube mover, and then I'm going to go to add component, and it's a script that already exists. So I'll say scripts and pick the name of it, cube mover. Okay, so power is the power of the explosion. By default, it's 50. The radius of the explosion is 5, and the time that it will take for the object to recover to its original position from the explosion is 2 seconds. I'm going to double click on now to show the script. So the script is longer than will fit in the window. So we'll just go step by step here in the script, and you could press pause to copy it. First of all, in my script, I'm going to be updating that text element. So I need to use the Unity Engine.UI for the text element. Okay. Now the script is going to have 3 states that it's going to go through. So instead of just using numbers to represent the state, I used a enumeration so we could see the states in words. The wait state, waiting for me to press the mouse button to do the explosion. The explode state, where the cube mover is reacting to the explosive force. And then the recover state, where the cube will move back into its target position. Okay, so here are the 3 variables that we saw in the inspector: power, radius, and time. Power of the explosion, radius of the explosion, and time it takes to recover. They're public, so you can show them in the inspector. And then here's some private variables that are just seen within the script that I'm using for calculations and stuff. So delta pos, it's the change in position, the change in rotation when we're doing the recover. And then I need a reference to the cube target to know where to move to when I recover. And I have a reference to the sphere object, which is the center of the explosive force. I have a reference to the text object that I'm going to have so I could show some numbers from the explosion happening. I have a reference to the rigid body because this component has a rigid body, and that's how I'm going to apply the explosive force through the rigid body. And then I have state, since this object is going to have 3 different states or modes that it's going to be in. So in the start function, that's called once per load of the game. When the script loads for the cube mover object, first I'm going to find, this is a function GameObject.Find. This is a way to find any game objects in the scene. See, I'm not providing them here on the script as parameters. I'm just going to, this is named cube target, this is named sphere, and the canvas element text. What does it have to be named in the script? It has to be named txt, so let me just change the name of that. txt, and then there's a text element. These are elements that exist in the scene. And one way I could get a reference to them in the script is to use GameObject.Find, and then I give it the name of the element. So I get the target, the sphere, and the text element. And then from the cube mover component, I get the rigid body. All right, and this is just a sanity check. Make sure that I got the cube, target, sphere, text, and RB. If it didn't get one of those 3, and it's going to print an error message in the bottom window here, error, one of the cube mover objects is null. And debug log, it will print in 2 places. It will print right here at the status bar, and it also will print in the console window. So if I see that, I know I messed up somewhere and one of these didn't get set. Now the update function, give you a chance to copy it, and it's a little longer than I'm showing, so let me expand that out. All right, the update function is called once per frame. So if you got 60 frames per second, it's called 60 times a second. Now, depending on the state that the cube mover is in, I'll do different things. So if I'm in the wait state, then I'm going to update the text element that's going to be on the screen right there, and I'm going to have it say, press the left mouse button, just to remind the user waiting for them to do something. And this input.get mouse button 0, that's the 0 is the code for the left mouse button. So if the input get mouse button 0 is true, that means somebody's pressing the left mouse button. Then I'm going to call a function I made called doExplosion. Okay. So what should I do? Tell you about doExplosion? Yeah, let's go down to doExplosion. doExplosion is going to turn the kinematic, it's going to turn IsKinematic off. That way the rigid body will react to forces. So I say IsKinematic equals false. And I'm going to add an explosive force of power from sphere at a radius to the rigid body. So this is the actual code that does the explosion to the cube mover. And then so we could tell when we press the button, you're going to hear a sound play, an audio source. And I'm going to set the state to explode. So it was wait. By default, when we start the game, the state is wait, and we're here. You press the button, and we're going to change the state to explode. So now in the update function, we're going through, and we're in the state of explode. And I'm just going to show the movement in position and the movement in rotation. And I'm going to wait for the movement in position to slow down to 0.01. I mean to 0.1. And when that happens, when the object slows down enough, I'm going to change the state to recover. And I'm going to change IsKinematic to true. I don't want the cube mover to respond to physics forces anymore. Now I'm going to take control of the movement. And I'm going to initialize the recovery process. How do I do that? When I initialize the recovery process, basically what I want to do is find out what the target is, and I want to break down how long it's going to take me, what kind of delta do I need for position and rotation to get there in 2 seconds. So I get the distance I have to travel in position, and I divide that by the time I want to get there for the delta position. And for the delta rotation, I take the difference in rotations from where I am to where I want to go, and I divide that by time to see how much I have to move to get there in that much time. So that's initialization. Okay, so now I've initialized the recover state, and I've switched the state to recover. So now in the update function, now that the state is recovered, when it's looping through this, it's going to do this. It's going to display on the text element the position and the rotation of the cube mover, and it's going to do recover. So do recover. Slowly, the position is going to move towards from where it is to where it has to be. And how slowly does it do it? Delta pos. Slowly, the rotation is going to rotate towards from where it is to where it has to be, and it's going to do it this fast. And then all we have to do is be able to determine when it reached the target position. So we're going to measure the distance to see if the position is now equal to the target position. If it's like less than 0.01, that means it's very, very close. I would say equal 0, but I'm just playing it safe, and I'm saying when it's this close that the recovery is done. And I switch the state back to wait. I know that's a lot, but it's kind of doing a lot. So I'll just give you a chance again to copy the code. First up here, okay, start function, press pause. Then over here, the update function, press pause. Then over here, my three functions to help me out. I got the do explosion function, the init recover function, and the do recover function. All right, so you got all that code. I'm just gonna save it. Star went away. Go back to Unity, and I think I did forget one thing with the mover. There was an audio sound that's supposed to play. So wait for the script to process. I'm gonna click the mover, and yeah, I didn't add the audio yet, so let me just add an audio source here, and I got an explosion sound right here for it to use, and turn off play on awake. Okay, a lot of stuff. Okay, well, here we go. Let me press play, see what happens. I press play. Hopefully I don't get a little error message, a sanity check that I had. Wait, one thing I gotta do. I forgot one thing. So many things. Select the camera. Align with view. There we go. Now press play. Let's see what happens. So here it says the wait state, and it's waiting for me to press the left mouse button. So I'm going to press the button. And you can see the cube moved a little, and when it slowed down enough, it went back to the target position. And I can just press left mouse button again. And it's an explosive force, so it's kind of like random. It's not going to be the same thing every time. All right, so that's cool. But one object, I kind of don't get the feeling that much, so I'm going to add some more objects here. So the cube mover is the one that moves in response to an explosion. I'm just going to duplicate it and make a couple of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to press play. Now I got 4 objects, and you're going to see the explosion. Add explosive forces, a random force to apply. So boom, they go in different directions. And each one of them, when they stop moving enough, wait a minute. Hey, you. And when they stop moving enough, they should come back. There you go. Oh, there you go.